my husband has left me to take care of our newborn twins all by myself. Even when I was pregnant, he barely acknowledged how tough it was for me. Instead, he said something like this: "I've got to go on a business trip for a week soon." That's going to be tough. I'm already swamped with taking care of the twins. What can I do though? It's my job. I had a feeling then that my husband was hiding something. Sure enough, when I looked into it, I discovered he was betraying me. After seeing him off on his trip, I muttered to myself, "Hope you make it back safely." My name is Janice. I'm 36 years old, and I work from home. Right now, it's just my husband Thomas and me living in our apartment. Thomas is 5 years younger than me, and we met at our favorite cafe. We both had a love for reading. He seemed interested in a book I was reading and struck up a conversation one day. I really liked him. He was bright and friendly. Though he was younger than me, so I didn't initially see him as a romantic prospect, but he was forward about liking me and actively pursued me. Eventually, his persistence won me over, and we got married when I was 30. We've lived peacefully as a couple, never having any major arguments. But there was one thing bothering me. We were having trouble having a child. We started trying for a baby in our second year of marriage, but there were no signs of pregnancy. We went to the hospital together for fertility tests. Turns out, Thomas had no issues. It was me who had a condition that made it difficult to conceive. Undergoing fertility treatments was physically and mentally taxing, not to mention expensive and stressful. I started getting the brunt of Thomas's frustrations. Since I was part of the reason we couldn't have kids, I didn't resist him. Tired of the treatments, he suggested one day, "Why don't we just live as a couple, just two of us?" But I couldn't give up on having his child. "Please, just a little more cooperation. I really want a child with you. I'll give up if it doesn't happen before I turn 40. He reluctantly agreed to my desperate plea. So we continued the treatments, and I finally got pregnant, and it was twin girls, twice the joy. My parents, my friends, and in-laws were all thrilled about the pregnancy. I was over the moon. I was determined to raise these kids right. I hoped this would also improve my shaky relationship with my husband. I was daydreaming about spending time with him and our children. Childcare was new to me, but I thought I'd be fine since I had done some prep work. But taking care of twins was harder than I expected. I can only admit I underestimated it. Everyone says the real work starts after the baby is born, and they were right. Caring for twins is obviously twice the work. Feeding, diaper changes, baths, putting them to sleep, all needed for two. Feeding a single baby requires about 8 to 10 sessions, but with twins, it's 16 to 20. And they don't always want to feed at the same time. When I'm feeding one and the other starts crying and I attend to her, the first one gets upset. It's a constant cycle. Diaper changes aren't synced either. Sometimes one would soil their diaper in the middle of changing the others. This means more time spent getting fresh clothes and diapers ready. And then there's the spit up, sweat, frequent diaper leaks. I had to change their clothes often. Just as I'd finished changing them, they'd have an accident, and even my clothes get dirty. Changing and washing their clothes took so much time. The cost of raising twins is also double. Diapers, milks, clothes. It's a bit overwhelming. They also cried a lot at night, so I hardly get any sleep. I would hold them because they cry for a long time, but even then, they wouldn't sleep. Even if I managed to calm one down, the other would start crying, waking the first one up again. I was exhausted every day, barely getting any sleep. I had to take a break from my work-from-home job to focus on childcare. My mom works, so she couldn't help, and my mother-in-law lives too far away. They say you should rest after giving birth, but that wasn't an option for me. I had no choice but to struggle through it alone. As for Thomas, he was no help at all. To be exact, he was uncooperative with childcare from the start. When he saw our newborns, he just laughed and said, "They look like monkeys, not cute at all." And to me, exhausted from childbirth, he joked, "They look ugly. Are you sure they're mine?" He dumped all the housework and childcare on me, using work as an excuse. It was fine when we didn't have kids, but now with newborn twins, it was too much. Even when I asked for help, he'd say, "I don't know how to do it, so I can't." I didn't know how to do it either. It was my first time. He seemed indifferent to our twins' care. I tried to talk to him about it, but it was always in vain. "Thomas, I know you're busy with work, but I'm still recovering from childbirth, and childcare is toughest now. You're a father, too. Can't you be a little more responsible? Could you maybe come home early and help out, even if it's just for a while?" Then he got really defensive. "What? Acting like you're the queen. You get to relax at home because I work hard outside. Don't you get that? And now you want me tired from work to do childcare and housework? You've got to be joking." "I'd like to work too, but I can't right now. And it's not like I'm relaxing at home. I'm sleep deprived every day. Is it too much to ask for a little help with housework and childcare?" No matter how much I asked, he just wouldn't agree, and our conversations got us nowhere. Finally, he threw a tantrum and ended the conversation forcibly. "Enough already. I can't even relax when I come home. I've been dragged around by your infertility and whims for too long, and just when I thought I was free from fertility treatments, this happens. I should have never had kids in the first place." With that, he stormed off into another room. Hearing his words, I just hung my head. Maybe my desire for children was indeed selfish. Thomas, unlike me, didn't desperately want children, and in hindsight was reluctant about fertility treatments. I remember him growing colder around the time my morning sickness got worse. If I neglected household chores or were bedridden due to illness, he would yell at me like a madman. Feeling guilty for dragging him into fertility treatments, I just silently endured his verbal abuse. I thought maybe things would change for the better once the kids were born, but instead, things just got worse. Our marriage quickly grew cold, and we started avoiding each other at home. Then one day, he dropped a bombshell. Despite being in the middle of caring for 1-week-old twins, he said he had to go on a week-long business trip. "It's an important job, so I can't mess it up. I'll be turning off my phone during the trip, so don't contact me, not even through WhatsApp or texts." "Can't someone else take your place? I am still recovering from childbirth and can't move around much. What am I supposed to do if something happens to the kids?" He wouldn't listen to my desperate pleas. "What? Don't be so needy. I have work. It can be helped." He dismissed my requests, using work as a shield, but I could tell he was lying. He might not realize it, but he rubs under his nose when he lies. It was just a woman's intuition, but I felt I couldn't overlook this lie about this business trip. In the past, I had ignored his minor lies about pinching pennies or saying he was going shopping when he was actually going out to drink. But this time was different. It concerned the care of our twins. What kind of lie he was telling this time? I knew confronting him then would only lead to more lies, so I pretended to give up on stopping his trip. In the meantime, until he left, I was busy investigating something. And I hit the jackpot. My intuition was right. He was hiding a huge secret. I'll never forgive him. I'll make sure he gets what he deserves. A few days later, Thomas, humming a tune and in high spirits, said to me as he was getting ready to leave, "All right, I'm off on my business trip." He was unusually cheerful for someone just going to work, but I didn't comment on it. "Have a good trip. Hope you make it back safely."
Huh? Did you say something?
No, nothing. Just be careful. Don't get into an accident. He didn't seem to hear my last words as he left the house, looking quite pleased with himself. He was blissfully unaware of the hell that awaited him. Enjoy yourself while you can, I thought to myself. He won't have that luxury when he comes back. I decided to prepare what would come after his return. I was looking forward to seeing his reaction in a week. A week passed and he came home. But instead of the upbeat mood he left in, he looked utterly exhausted. His face covered in bruises, his clothes dirty and disheveled.
"I'm home. Oh man, I'm so tired. There's no place like home."
"Oh my, what happened to your face? Look at those bruises."
"Oh, I just fell, that's all."
He was rubbing under his nose again, lying even at this point, unaware that I already knew the truth. He was still so naive. Then he noticed something was off in the house.
"Hey, what's with all these cardboard boxes? Are we moving or something?"
Indeed, the house was filled with boxes containing my belongings. To his question, I replied coldly, "The kids and I are moving out. I don't plan on coming back here."
"What? What are you talking about?"
"I can't stay with a husband who lied about a business trip to go on a cheating vacation while I'm at home with 1-week-old twins. I'm filing for divorce and leaving." He looked shocked, his face turning pale, and then he started yelling at me.
"Stop with the nonsense. This just because I didn't help with the kids is too much. Do you even have any proofs that I cheated?"
In response, I showed him a video. It showed him discussing his trip with his mistress.
"I'm really looking forward to the trip tomorrow." "Don't worry, I fooled my wife." "Did you manage to talk to your husband, Sarah?"
"Oh, that's great." Seeing the video, he went pale.
"When did you? I thought you were at the hospital when I made that call."
I never expected the camera I was setting up to catch something like this. After all, it was intended for a different use. Actually, this footage was from a baby monitor camera I had secretly bought with my personal savings. I was anxious about being away from the kids, so I had installed cameras around the room. I thought he would make a fuss about it being a waste of money. I had heard about a woman named Sarah from him before.
"There's this cute new employee named Sarah, but she's married, too bad."
After seeing the footage from the baby monitor, I called Thomas's company to confirm his business trip. It turned out he had taken leave instead. On the phone, I asked, "Could you please put me through Sarah Johnson?" As expected, the response was, "Sarah Johnson is also on leave." So, the affair was indeed with Sarah, his junior colleague. I searched Thomas's study and found a memo with staff contacts, then called Sarah's house. Her husband answered, and when I explained the situation, he was furious. It seemed there were already suspicions about her infidelity, and he had been about to investigate. I asked him to keep it a secret that he had heard it from me. The day before Thomas was due to return from his business trip, I received a call from Sarah's husband explaining what happened. Apparently, Thomas had brazenly gone to pick up Sarah from her house and encountered her husband. He beat up Thomas, which explained the bruises all over his face. He couldn't go home right away and had to kill time in a motel before he finally returned. He stood in front of me, speechless, his mouth opening and closing. Then someone burst in.
Mom, Dad, what are you doing here?
Entering the living room were my furious in-laws, their faces red with anger. I had also informed them and shown them the baby monitor footage. My father-in-law, in a rage, punched Thomas in the face, adding another bruise.
You stupid son! Cheating, what a despicable act! You're disowned!
Then, more shouting from behind.
I'm taking my daughter and grandkids back home. What a terrible man you are.
Absolutely dreadful.
Janice, you called your parents too?
Actually, I had also called my parents to help with the move. My mother hugged the kids, glaring coldly at Thomas. My mother-in-law, tears in her eyes, slapped him and scolded. You stupid son! Surrounded by both sets of parents, his face was a sight to behold. Then I dropped another bombshell. Oh yeah, I also contacted your company's president. They already know that you used your leave days for your affair. Hearing this, he yelled at me.
Are you kidding me? What have you done?
My father, raising his fist, yelled back at him.
How dare you act like this after cheating? You have a problem with my daughter? I'm sorry.
Cornered, he began to plead with me.
Please, Janice, the affair was a moment of madness. Don't divorce me. I'll leave Sarah and help out with housework and childcare from now on.
His desperate pleas didn't move me at all. They were just a nuisance. I retorted sharply. What are you saying now? You weren't there for me when I needed you most. Do you have any idea how hard it was to take care of twins and do housework alone? And you were on a vacation with your mistress. You really have some nerve.
I know. I'm truly sorry, I am.
No excuses. I'm done with you. I can't be your wife anymore. Don't come near me and the kids ever again. I'll be demanding alimony and child support, just so you know. I left the apartment with everyone, leaving him behind. Later, Thomas and I divorced. I demanded alimony for his affair with Sarah and, of course, child support from him. He received a stern warning from his company, but resigned because he couldn't stand the disdainful looks from his colleagues. He ended up with a debt of $100,000 from the alimony and child support payments to me and Sarah's husband. Now he's working himself to exhaustion in manual labor day and night. Sarah was also divorced by her husband, left her job, and returned to her parents' home in the countryside. She's working in a factory, monitored due to the alimony demands from her husband and me. As for me, I moved back to my parents' home and I'm taking care of the twins with my mother's help. Just watching the twins grow up healthy makes me happy. They are loved by the entire family and seem very happy. I'm determined to work hard for the sake of these children's future.